Hey guys, Furum here, and today I'm going to be testing the Koenigsegg Regera in multiplayer in Asphalt 9 at Golden Max in the Legendary Master Series 2 season. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and enjoy the video. So in this series are the 4 top cars in the game, namely the Regera, the Chiron, the Jesco, and the Rimac C2. Now I have made videos of all these cars at max before, but with someone else driving, so I thought, what if I made a video for each of these cars at Golden Max, top 4 cars in the game, me driving them. Let me know what you guys would think about that. I think it would make for some really good videos. So the Regera is undoubtedly the worst car in this season to use. While it's definitely not bad, like for example, it has a higher top speed than the Chiron and the Rimac, and only behind the Jesco, and that by a good bit. Like, it's just really sluggish compared to the other cars. If you drive this thing, you'll see that its drifting is quite wide. It does not accelerate all that fast. It just feels rather cumbersome to drive compared to the Rimac and the Chiron and the Jesco. So if you do use this car in this season, keep in mind that it will be less reliable than the other cars in most cases, but you can still do some good work with it, as you can see in this video, and that is what I want to show you. Now in this race we are facing 3 Rimacs, 1 Bugatti Chiron, and 1 Koenigsegg Jesco. Some people have asked me like what order you should use the cars in the season, as in which ones are best and which ones are worst, and I generally would say the Jesco is the best, followed by the Rimac, followed by the Chiron, and then followed by the Regera. So generally, in my times of playing this, I go Regera, Chiron, Rimac, Jesco, and generally that allows me to keep going up. And yes guys, I only have 3 fuel in each of these cars still because I did not buy the Legend Pass, and I am not going to. I'm going to stick to my word and not spend a cent in this game, just so I can show you guys what you really can achieve without doing so, because I know that is one thing that a lot of people do want to do. And in this race here, we get to see kind of the more brutal and gritty side of this season. It's not all fun and games. It is definitely not an easy season to play in, especially if you use the Regera. You do not get ghosting. Knockdowns are on. So just be aware that there will be some pushing around near the beginning of the race, and it is quite likely that in a lot of cases you may get knocked down. It's happened to me plenty of times in every single car in the season that I've played. It's kind of inevitable, so be aware of that. It's not an easy season by any means. Thankfully, that guy did not knock me down there. Here, we can see one of the biggest disadvantages of the Regera. That turn back there, even if you slow down before it, I still have not been able to make it in this car without hitting the outside wall, as I have been able to with the other 3 cars in this season because they have better drifting radiuses. Or radii, however you say it. Anyway, in that race, the Jesco beat us, but we did beat the Chiron and the Rimac, and that was a 4-player race, 1 with each car in the season. Pretty cool to see. Now we have another track that, generally speaking, the Rimac is going to be the best on, along with the Jesco, and the Regera is likely going to struggle. Thankfully, one of the Rimacs wrecked and I was able to pull ahead of this one, but with all the twists and turns on the Caribbean and with the Rimac's really good drifting and acceleration, we'll have to see how long I can actually maintain this lead. Like, you can see around those curves there, he was able to catch up. The only reason I was able to get up to as high of speed as I did after that big turn back there was because he bumped me from behind, and because I had shockwave and he didn't knock me down. That is one thing that is kind of nice if you're in front, but is especially annoying when you're the one who bumped someone else, because generally speaking, the person who gets bumped gets a speed boost, assuming they don't get knocked down, and the person behind just kind of loses what momentum they had. I've been on both ends of that multiple times throughout this season. Thankfully, in this case, it did help us, and we were able to come in first place in a situation that you wouldn't really expect the Regera to do very well in. By the way, guys, I'm going to be doing a special Q&A with my girlfriend at 30,000 subscribers, so if you would like to see that sooner, definitely hit that subscribe button. This race is against the Jesco and another Regera. Some people were saying in the season that they wished cars had unlimited fuel, but I kind of disagree with that. You see, if all the cars had unlimited fuel, everybody would just choose the Jesco, and perhaps the Rimac in some cases. Nobody would ever choose the Agera. Maybe some people would choose the Chiron too, and there we accidentally landed on the Jesco and knocked him down. If we hadn't, I'm not sure how this race would have turned out, but we've gotten quite far ahead of the other Agera at this point. But back to what I was saying, I'm glad that we don't have unlimited fuel in this season because it allows for more variety. Now, what would be interesting is if Gameloft introduced something where cars would have more fuel, like they doubled the fuel on everyone's car for a season. I think that would also be cool for a season like this, but I can't imagine they would ever do that because they want people to buy the Legend Pass, which basically does that. It adds 3 fuel to all the cars, which would double the fuel of the S-Class cars. And some people have been confused that they've bought the Legend Pass and they haven't instantly gotten those extra fuels for their cars. Well, you have to still go through the Legend Pass, because although you do get some bonuses, like 10% extra credits or something, like right after you buy the Legend Pass, you have to go through the Season Pass still in order to get the higher level rewards for buying that Legend Pass. So if you have bought it and you haven't been going through the tiers, you might want to start doing that in order to get the best out of your money. This race is against 3 Bugatti Chirons and 1 Rimac. While the beginning is pretty twisty, throughout this later section here, we can see where the Regera's strengths really come into play. After going up this ramp, it can obtain a really high airspeed, not allowing that Rimac to catch up completely, and thus we can come in first, with him not terribly far behind us though. This is definitely a more Rimac-oriented track. I think this season will help to show that the Rimac is indeed overall a better car than the Bugatti Chiron, because I know some people still haven't quite accepted that, and while the cars are very close, and perhaps you like the Chiron better, and that's totally fine, overall, the Rimac is going to generally be better in events and multiplayer than the Bugatti Chiron. And you guys know in my best and worst cars in each class list that I put the Regera above the Tryon for the events list. That was a nice clean pass right there. And I put the Tryon above the Regera in the multiplayer list. And some people were wondering, why did I do that? Well, the reason is that with the Regera's higher top speed, I believe that in most cases, given enough time, you will be able to get a better time in events, generally speaking, with the Regera than with the Tryon Nemesis. But with multiplayer, I've found the Tryon Nemesis to be more reliable, to not lose as much speed, and to just generally be able to keep up a bit better than the Regera does. While it is slower and doesn't have quite as good of acceleration, its drifting is a lot better, and I just find it to be better for multiplayer overall. I would have chosen the Tryon over the Regera in this season in most cases. The Regera is just not agile enough to be a really good multiplayer car for most people. There, that Chiron wrecks on the overpass. I think he went a little bit too low on the barrel, which allows us to pull out the victory at the very last second. This was again a race with one of every car in the season. That's pretty cool to see the variety. Now for a race on the Himalayas against a Jesko, 2 Chirons, and 2 Rimacs. And I think the reason that most people still do not go over to the left is because it is not as reliable as going to the right in multiplayer. If you do it correctly, it is faster, especially in high top speed cars such as these. But if you don't, you can lose a lot of speed. So that is why, for me, I only really do that if I need to in events, and not really in multiplayer. I did it for a little while because I was trying to get better at it, but I just found that it generally lost me time more than actually helping me, so I just go over to the right, and it works really well in most cases. The left isn't all that much faster by much anyway. This is actually one of the tracks where the Regera will likely do pretty well in this season, given that it is very top speed oriented. If you're able to get ahead of the Chirons and the Rimacs, they're probably not going to be able to catch up unless you lose a bunch of speed in one place. Interestingly, the Jesko is actually in last place in this race. I'm not entirely sure what happens to him, but this would be a really prime Jesko track as well. And most Himalayan tracks will be good for both of these cars. I know there are some more recently added ones that are a bit twistier, but ones like Mountain Poles and Frozen Route, the Jesko and the Regera are going to slam on. Now for our final race of the video, which is on Scotland against another Regera. Before I give my general review of this car, I want to give you a few updates on how my special events are going. Currently, I'm sitting at first position in my Tier 2 bracket of the Cayman Grand Prix, and I should be able to maintain that position. My car is at 3 stars. I was going to try to get it at 2 stars for a while, but I was probably going to end up at around 5 or 6 position if I kept with a 2-star car, so I decided, you know what, I'm going to upgrade it and not risk losing it. I'm 40% of the way through the Carrera GT special event with, I think, 25 out of 45 blueprints for that car. I'm not entirely sure yet if I'll be able to get it, but I'll keep you posted. I know that some Porsche Carrera GT packs accidentally came out a day or so ago for about an hour or something like that, but they disappeared, and unfortunately I wasn't able to get my hands on any of them. Oh well. So the Regera is definitely one of the best cars in the game, second highest top speed behind the Jesko. Its other stats are rather mediocre, but I would recommend still giving it a try in this season if you haven't yet. Thank you for watching, please like the video if you have enjoyed, and consider subscribing for more Asphalt and other games content, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye!